Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm JJ Flazanes, your host. Thank you for downloading today's episode. Happy 2020. Happy New Year. I am so excited. I can't even stand it. I was literally editing today a show that I thought I was going to put in my Inner Circle membership. That's a place where I do Q&As and live coachings and other episodes that I get a little bit deeper on law of attraction and on mind to matter and epigenetics and soon to be even essential oils. But as I was editing today's show, I thought, no, I need to share this with everyone. This is a great way to start 2020. I forgot the impact that this show had on my interviewer because on this particular episode, I am the guest. This show was aired on Dr. Cherie Carter Scott's podcast, and we did it on video. We also did the audio portion. And for those of you that have been following me for a while, Dr. Cherie's book, If Life is a Game, These Are the Rules, was a book that literally started me on this path. Over 20 years ago, I read her book, I saw her on Oprah, and that was when I believe I woke up in the world, and all of her lessons in that book really shifted my life and my trajectory and my path. So I have been a fan of hers since 1998. And she interviewed me on her show. And something, I'm not sure if I shared it on a previous show or not, but one of the biggest compliments, probably the best compliment I've had in 2019 was when we were done recording that show. And I've had some really great compliments from Dr. Eben Alexander and Harville Hendricks, both really meeting me in a place where, you know, my intellect, my understanding of their work and of the work in general is very similar and toe to toe, so to speak. I mean, I have definitely felt validated, if you will, by a lot of the guests that I've had on whose work I admire. Dr. Cherie said once we were done with this interview, she said, don't take this the wrong way, but I feel I can go on a vacation now. Like, I feel like I can actually take a rest because you're here. And that compliment will stay with me forever. And it led us to collaborating at the end of the interview where she and I are actually going to do some work, hopefully this year in 2020 together. That's like a lifelong dream. And I'm so honored to have been introduced to her work, to have connected with her, and to now have a relationship with her. So this is me on her show. And as we continue through the rest of today's episode, I just want to remind you, because it is January 2nd of 2020, and in a week from today, so you still have 7 days, we are going to be doing, actually a week and a day. It starts on the 10th of January. We are doing the last Releasing What Weighs You Down. So today's show I titled What Determines Your Value? Because we talk a lot about my journey and how I help people and what people are missing and how the tools I've used can help people and how a lot of people who come to me value themselves based on their weight, how they look, how well they perform in a relationship, how much money they have. And when we really get down to it, those are not the determining factors of your self-worth. So we'll talk more about that as the show continues. But if you're feeling like you really need a kick in the pants in that way, and you really want to release some of those limiting beliefs, again, it's the last time we're doing Releasing What Weighs You Down. There is still time. There is still room. Go to releasingwhatweighsyoudown.com to get the link to register at 1440 Multiversity. If you can't find it or if you have a problem, email me. All of the info is underneath here in the show notes. And then the last announcement I'll make is that if you want to really change your energy starting now, yesterday, January 1st, in the Inner Circle membership, which is only $9.99 a month, we started our January 2020 Manifestation Challenge. And you're going to get some tools and some resources in that challenge. We're going to support you. There's going to be live coaching. There's going to be a more intimate group of people who are very serious about practicing on a daily basis the things that can help elevate your vibration and frequency and remind you of your self-worth. I think that's the biggest thing I want you to remember today is that you don't have to earn your self-worth. You are already worthy. And all of the coaching, all of the tools, all of the events is really about unlearning and releasing all of the bad habits and limiting beliefs that you have obtained over your lifetime that stop you from being who you really are. And of course, that's my number one reason to do any of this, is to support you and to remind you of who you really are. I hope you enjoyed today's show.
Welcome to Dr. Cherie's podcast. I'm very excited for you to join me today for a very special guest. Her name is JJ Flitzines, and she's an empowerment strategist and the host of several podcasts, including People's Choice Award nominee Spirit, Purpose, and Energy. And if you want to know about purpose and energy, this woman will knock your socks off because she has more purpose and energy than just about anybody I've ever talked to. She's a director of Invisible Fitness. How cool is that? I mean, we all think of fitness as being something really visible, but she does invisible fitness. I love it. She's a best-selling author of Fit to Love, How to Get Physically, Emotionally, and Spiritually Fit to Attract the Love of Your Life. You ready for this? She's the one. She's the one who's going to be able to make you into a magnet and to be able to pull in not just anyone, but the one, the right one, the match for you. She also has 5 secrets to release weight and end body shame. I think we all need that. I mean, at some point or another, we all need that. And I've just recently been through surgery. I don't have a lot of shame about the surgery, but it's not like I'm exposing it to the world either. Like, hey, look at my scars. The other thing is that she was named the best personal trainer in LA by Elite Traveler magazine. She's been featured in many national magazines, including Shape, Fitness, Women's Health, and appeared on NBC, CBS, Fox, the CW, and KTLA. You can actually get a free copy of the Invisible Fitness Formula. If you're really nice to her today, she'll give you instructions on how to do that. So I just want to extend a really big, heartfelt welcome to JJ and to our viewers and listeners to watch somebody who's truly incredible and extraordinary. Welcome, JJ.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Cherie. Well, I love you. And so for you to say that about me, well, that's 20 years in the making. So thank you so much for helping me to get where I am, because it's definitely your work that did help spark this path that I'm on.
Well, I'm appreciative of your very kind and generous and gracious words. And I want to start out by talking about your journey, because each one of us has a journey, and none of us popped out of the womb usually ready-made to say, this is what I'm going to do with my life. I'm really clear. I know why I'm here. And I think it's important to be able to unravel, where somebody came from and what were some of those moments that were illuminating or defining. So I want to kind of turn it over to you to be able to take us on the journey, and I'll interject every now and then.
Okay. So the beginning of my journey started with you. I mean, in terms of the evolution of consciousness. Prior to that, I was an actress. I was in New York City. I was also a personal trainer, and I wasn't quite awake yet. I understood emotion. I understood looking at the world through different points of view from my acting background. On a personal training side, I was working with science and the science of the body, which honestly had given me my confidence. Prior to that, I didn't think I was very smart. I knew I was talented, but I didn't think I was smart. Like science and math were not something I was good at in school. I didn't get straight A's. I wasn't that super book smart, memorize it and tell you all the things. I wasn't doing calculus. In fact, I don't even know if I can still do calculus, but I wasn't into all of that. And so I just assumed, well, I'm just one of those really creative, outspoken, gregarious kind of people. And I'm not the smart, brainy type. And it wasn't until I wanted to use my brain. I was pretty aware when I was in school and acting and going to move into the city. And I didn't want to, not that there's anything wrong with waiting tables or being in the service industry. I've done all of that, like literally all of it, like manager from front to back, minus being a cook. I've done all of it. But it didn't involve my brain. And I did realize I wanted to problem solve. Like some part of me needed to problem solve, and acting didn't provide that for me. So I started to learn about personal training, and all of a sudden science became physical. It became mechanical, and I could see it. I could see it really clearly. And then I was good at it. And all of a sudden I thought, wow, I'm smart. I didn't realize I was smart. So I became this personal trainer who then now is like really enamored with science and wanting to teach everybody about basic science that we were not using in a gym situation. I just look around the room horrified at all the things I used to do and other people were doing that didn't make any sense to me.
Can you give us an example of that basic science in the gym?
Sure. I went through a certification at one point that someone created. It's funny when after you go through them and you realize I could have created that. Someone who had breast cancer, who partnered with a trainer and a physician, but really a surgeon, and they kind of made this training situation for people who had breast cancer. And I understood that their goals were great. They wanted to help personal trainers work with people who had recovered from breast cancer surgery. The problem was they didn't have some basic sciences in place, like physics. So when you're working with resistance training, and resistance literally it could be anything, resistance in the form of wind, air, water, your own body weight, but it all has to work within some kind of physics of if it's a weight, it's gravity based. Something like elastic and tubing is not gravity based. Something like water is not gravity based. But when we're dealing with free weights, it's gravity based. So we have to understand that gravity pulls down. So I just watched them do exercises that were not in alignment with gravity, and expecting that the muscles that they were focusing on were somehow magically going to get the benefits of the weight in their hands that was not in the plane of motion of the muscles they were trying to work on. Does that make sense?
Amazing discovery. And you thought you weren't smart. My God, that's amazing.
Well, I realized at that moment I was a lot smarter than they were in terms of the exercise piece, because again, personal trainers don't have to go through a 4-year degree to become personal trainers. Right. And that's kind of the scary part. I mean, I became director of education for New York Sports Club when I was 21 years old. Amazing. And I was teaching trainers. So I had quickly kind of catapulted, and I was on fire when I learned science. I walked into that gym and I was like, everybody, like, stop what you're doing. We have to learn science. And I took it to the vice president of the company, and I really advocated for, we need to have more education, because I didn't know what I was doing before, but I knew that I didn't know. And now that I have a little bit of science, a little bit, and I thought I knew everything. I didn't think I knew everything, but I did act like I knew everything at first, because I knew more than everybody else. But then the more that I kept doing it, the more I realized, and I guess, although I guess right a lot of the times, but I would guess, I'd realize, wow, there's a lot out there that I don't know. And of course, the more you learn, the more you realize you know nothing. But at first, when you learn something little and it makes sense to you, and it all of a sudden connects the dots, you get excited about, wow, I understand this. And I didn't know that I could understand this. So fast forward, I go through the personal training situation, and I quickly, again, elevate at 21 years old to director of education for New York Sports Club. I'm designing the programs, I'm hiring the trainers, I'm educating the trainers. But again, my left brain is working really hard at problem solving, and my right brain's going, okay, I need to do something else that also involves the acting and the theater part of me and the singing part of me. So I ended up writing an off-Broadway musical with a friend, and doing this like four stunt at Don't Tell Mamas on, I think it's 49th and 9th or 50th and 9th in Broadway, because I just needed to flex that muscle of creativity and of emotional expression, and I needed my emotions to have their own exercising. So that's sort of the left brain, right brain part of me, and so somewhere in there.
It seems like there's a very strong muscle in you that's reflective. In other words, it takes time out to notice, pay attention to what's going on, what you notice about yourself that's in place, what's missing. Has that always been there?
I can remember as far back to being a real victim. I'm very clear about the victim triangle these days. I've been teaching it for years, but I didn't recognize back then that I was a victim. But what I could do as a victim is very, very specifically tell you how you hurt my feelings and what not to do ever again, so you didn't do it again. So I was very articulate about identifying and explaining. I could communicate exactly what had happened, why you were wrong, how it hurt my feelings, and how to never do it again. I did have a moment when I watched the television and think, well, if they can do it, why can't I do it? If they can do that, why can't I do that? So I was aware that I didn't have necessarily limitations, or that there was a possibility of not having limitations. Now, did I have limiting beliefs? Of course, I'm human. But I think I would definitely question. And it wasn't until a little bit later that I would start to ask myself, why did you act that way? Why did you react that way? Why did you interpret it that way?
So was that in your 20s or your teens
Yes.
or 20s?
Yeah, I definitely can remember when I lived in New York City that I would notice my behavior, and I do a lot of astrology. And now I used to use astrology as one of my psychological tools, besides all the tools that you learn in an acting class of learning how to see the world through someone else's eyes. What do they think about when they wake up in the morning? What's going on in the world? What music's playing? What's their life like? What pains do they have? All of that stuff. So I would take and mesh that with astrology, and now I'm really in observer mode a lot. And I didn't know that then, but I was in observer mode a lot, especially when something bothered me. And I would always think to myself, why don't you like that person? Did they say something? Did they look at you funny? I would just question what's going on.
Okay, so
I
you
didn't,
take the questions back to yourself as opposed to pointing at them, thinking that if they just change, everything would be okay.
that was when I was in high school. When I got to after college and moved to the city and was acting, it was a little bit of both. I would reflect a lot on, I wanted to know, I was curious. I have a lot of Sagittarian in me. I'm a Pisces, but I've got Sag moon, Sag rising, Sag soul. So I was always very curious about the inner workings of my brain and why do I think this way, especially after learning science, right? Because I went from this idea that I wasn't smart to all of a sudden the world opened up. So if I could learn science, I could learn anything. So I just started asking questions about, why do I act this way? Why do I feel this way? What did they do? Did they do something? What are you interpreting? And I only took it as far as use astrology at that time. But then we're going to fast forward to 1998 when your book came out, and I'd say the 3 rules for being human that stick out to me. And I don't know them off the hand. They're right here, but I don't know them off my hand. But the ones that have been most pivotal, for me are that you'll be presented with lessons. Lessons are repeated until they're learned, and everyone is a mirror for you.
7. Yep.
Okay, so those 3 were like, wow. All of a sudden the world changed. Oh, wait, our lesson for me. So what is it about me? So I really took that inward and really used that to, again, continue the journey of consciousness and what I'm calling consciousness, to really reflect and be really good at being an observer.
So they, in your terminology, they woke you up to a new level of consciousness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The next pivotal moment from there, when I moved to California in 2000 from New York, I was too much into training and doing the education, and my left brain was just activated all the time. And I thought, I need a fresh start, and I want to move to California, and I want to concentrate on my acting there too. And then I came here and I immediately got an agent, immediately got a couple national commercials and some print work. But of course I needed to work. So I went back into doing waiting tables, because nobody knew me here in terms of the educational gym situation and being a personal trainer. And fast forward to having a dream. I had kind of like gotten to that moment in my life where I said, look at my acting resume. I had a great acting resume. I went to Carnegie Mellon. I went to NYU. I went to Syracuse University. Then I'm looking at my personal training resume, a National Academy of Medicine. I'm looking at these resumes going, how can I make this all work for me? And I had a dream. It was February of 2001. And the answer was clear. I was supposed to work for myself. I was supposed to open up a personal training company in LA and model it or connect with a company I had worked for in New York that was doing it, that didn't have a gym location, which were training people in their homes. So I called up the owner and I said, hey, I want to open one in LA. And that led me into being an entrepreneur. So as an entrepreneur, of course, when you're small potatoes and you're just starting and you're building your business, and remind you, I'm 3,000 miles away from anyone I really know. I know 3 people in this city. No one knows who I am. No one knows what I've done. I left New York on a high. I come to LA. I know really nobody, although I did have one client. And that was the client that bought me your book. That was the client that I saw your show with Oprah on that book. And so we both had copies of it, but she has it signed copy to me to gift it to me. So I have my first life coach. When I was personal training and networking and trying to get clients. And she was the first one to introduce me to Abraham Hicks, so Law of Attraction. And I remember I played that CD over and over. I was driving all around California working with clients, and I played that CD over and over again. And the first time I ever heard, you are the creator of your own reality. Again, next level. All of a sudden I went, what? I'm the creator of my own reality? That means I can change it.
Another wake-up call.
Another wake-up call. And that took me to the next level of, while before I knew people were mirrors to me, but I still didn't understand like the next level of how I was attracting it, or how I could connect it to a wound, or how I could connect it to a limiting belief, or how I could connect it to my subconscious. So when I got into the work of Abraham, and again, as a personal trainer, as you can tell, I didn't just stick with body sciences. I moved into the sciences of the endocrine system, nutrition and biochemistry. I moved into the psychological stuff, into the emotional stuff, into the behavioral patterns, and into even brain chemistry, looking at neurotransmitters, also looking at, of course, astrology, law of attraction. So it's really, I kept taking the dive deeper and deeper and deeper when people would say to me, because I'm a great problem solver, they would come to me with a problem. And if I couldn't solve it with the sciences that I had, well, got to go find new science. I got to go find something else because I haven't figured out how to solve that problem yet. So let me go study some more. Let me go learn something new to come back with an answer to help you with your problem.
So it sounds like one of the core parts of your personality is a hunger for knowledge and information to be able to learn almost every day of your life.
I do love to learn. I think I was definitely seeking answers to sort of life's biggest questions for a long time. And I feel pretty solid about what my beliefs are. I was at a party on Saturday, and there was a palm reader there. And the guy whose birthday party it was, when I came out, he's like, "So what'd you think?" And I said, I think it was like 60 to 70% true. And he's like, "So, do you believe this and do you believe that?" And I said, well, you chose to be here. I mean, you designed it all anyway. And he said, "You sound pretty convinced of that." I said, "Oh, I know exactly what I believe on pretty much every subject. And if I don't, then I will let you know." So yes, can I explain my whole theory of why we're here and of life and of death and what happens? Absolutely. I am very convinced I have found the answers to my questions. So much so that now I'm passing on information like Enneagram, for instance. I am not interested in Enneagram currently. People keep trying to shove it down my throat. And I'm like, but every time they do, I'm like, you know what? Astrology does that for me. I'll listen to someone talk about Enneagram and say, well, I'm a 1. I'm like, but you're a Taurus. That makes perfect sense. Or the guy that says, well, I'm a 7, I think. And I'm like, well, you're a Gemini. So this makes sense to me. But it's a little bit deeper. I've been studying astrology for 20 years. So I'm full. I'm definitely full. And now I get to pick and choose kind of where I spend my time. And I take all these tools. I have so many tools. Take all these tools and I get to work with people. I get to teach people and I get to connect those dots. And I think that's my gift, is taking all of these tools and deciphering and putting the right ones together in the right order for the right person. They're not all the same. They're not cookie cutter. I use astrology. I use love languages. I use birth order. I'm using, all of it to really tailor a path.
Okay, so let's just say that there's a person out there who's listening, watching our podcast today, and they say, this is really cool. Now, I have this situation, which is a match for what JJ could help me with. What's the profile of that person?
Well, what my several podcasts have taught me is that the people that work best with me and that are attracted to me are the ones who do believe that everything is connected on some level, and they're not afraid of responsibility for that. They just want to have tools to fix it, to work it out, to heal it, to move through it. And they also want the structure. I haven't recorded it yet, but I keep threatening to record a podcast called The Roadmap to Healing. Because one of the things that I think happens in therapeutic situations, which is why I love your work, because coaching is so different than therapy. And I think the reason why people don't love therapy as much as I love coaching, or people love coaching, is because therapy, whether it's you're taught to have a specific way that you have to deal with a client, sometimes you're 5-6 sessions in, we still haven't had a breakthrough. There's nobody's feeling any better. We've just dug up a bunch of stuff we don't feel good about, and then we're walking away feeling worse or no better. And for a linear structured person or a man, they're thinking, how long is this going to take? When are we going to get somewhere? How long do I got to be here? How do I know when I've made it to the next level? So to me, with all the tools that I've scoured the earth to find and incorporate in the work that I'm doing, I'm like, there's a roadmap. Here's my roadmap. I'm going to show you the roadmap. It goes like this. Now, how long it takes you to get on those, to get through that path, well, that's depending on you.
Sure.
But to me, it's a very simple structure of a couple different tools that we can use to integrate how we communicate, how we see the world. What do we choose? How do we choose what's best for us? Like astrology lets me know when someone has no structure, they're all air, or they're all air and water. They need to find a way they have to commit, and possibly financially, to having some kind of structure in place, because without it, they'll fly away. It's not something they're good at.
Okay. So Is it the person who has like a philosophical orientation to wanting to work with you to be able to connect the dots of their life and make sense of it all? Or is it somebody who has an issue that has to do with body shame or that they want to find their soulmate?
So because I started on the personal training path and because a lot of people came to me for weight loss, again, it's been the discovery that question after question of why do you want to lose weight? Right. See, weight gain is a symptom, and it's food overeating and food addiction is just a way to numb feeling. So what is it we really want? That's where law of attraction kind of cut through all of it for me. The only reason we want anything we want is because we want to feel better. So we can feel better now and we can start to change those different situations. So I would say understanding that when you work with me, it's a commitment of looking at everything. Nothing's off limits because everything is connected. And I'm the person who wants to connect the mind, body, soul together because I don't want to, while I can help you lose weight, if you're doing it out of self-hatred, then it's not going to last. And I don't want to anchor that every time you get on a treadmill, you go, I hate myself, I hate myself, I hate myself.
God, how awful.
Well, but that's what happens to many people.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm happy, right? And it's why we struggle with how come I can't lose weight, because you're not looking at what's driving why you're overeating in the first place or why you're not taking better care of yourself. It's a disconnection. I wrote Fit to Love because the love of your life is you. And until you have that relationship with yourself, you're not going to attract a healthy, authentic relationship because you're going to be trying, right?
Chapter 1, love is a game. I love it. Your relationship with yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
So I love what you're saying. It's so exciting and dynamic and passionate. I mean, I think all of you viewers can hear and feel the passion from JJ. It's really evident. If you want to contact JJ, I need to know how they can reach out to you, whether it's social media, your website, or whatever.
Well, you can go to my website, jjflizanes.com. So it's FLIZANES.com. Or you can find me on social media. But again, JJ Flizanes is where you're going to have to type in anywhere. So just might as well go to the website because it has it all there. Links to every social media. If
they take out their phone right now and just take a picture of this picture, then they can find you. Easy, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Think of it phonetically. Flizanes. FLI Zanes. Fly Zanes.
Zanes. I love it. Now, the second thing is that what can they expect? Is it one-to-one work, or is it a group work, or is it a online chat? How does it structure for the people that are listening to us?
Well, if you go to jjflizanes.com, there are several free offers for things. So we could go from I do a free 30-day manifestation challenge. I do it 3 times a year, and that is a group program. If you want personal work, I start off with a one-on-one starter pack, which is 2 sessions, just because I like to have the accountability that you actually implement something from the first to the second versus a one and done. Because I don't know once you leave if you're actually serious about growth. I want to know that you what got in the way of fulfilling some of the things that you wanted to work on. And literally had seen 2 other therapists. I'm not a therapist, but had seen 2 therapists. I was the third person. And she saw me because she didn't like what they had to say. And she proceeded to tell me her whole story. And then she said, I just don't know what to do. And I said, but you do. You just told me. And she was like, I said, but it's just hard. I said, I understand it's hard, but you actually do know what to do. So between session 1 and session 2, she broke up with a boyfriend, quit her job, moved from Australia back to the United States, and had more transformation. I said, and she came to me for anxiety, because basically anxiety is really, we're just repressing something. There's something inside of you that needs to be expressed, and you're holding on to it, which is what's causing anxiety. So when you can identify that the anxiety is literally just a cap on the pot that's trying to boil over. So when we discovered what that thing she needed to do was, one second session, how's your anxiety? Oh, it's gone. Like,
Don't you love it?
But just like you asking good questions, I didn't tell her to do anything. She literally told me what she knew she needed to do. I said, yes, you do. You know what to do. You just need someone to mirror back to you. You know what to do. It's just a scary move. So
and lots of people do say it's hard. It's hard. And I think part of what you do and I do is to say to them, you're right, it is hard. And that doesn't mean that you don't do it. It means that you do it even though it's hard.
And also say, and maybe you acknowledge that it's hard and you're afraid and you're not ready yet. And just sit in that. You're not ready yet. But you acknowledge, I gave someone some really tough love. I do events. in my next event's in January. It's called Releasing What Weighs You Down. It's the third time we're doing it. Very powerful event. But my last event was called the Manifestation Bootcamp. And one of my very dear clients, who's a listener and in everything I do, she's in every program I have. And she's been a private client, and she had a little meltdown, and I gave her some tough love. But it was in the moment that I realized the habit and pattern that she had that so many people have is that we stay in confusion as a shield because we don't want to look in the mirror to say, I do know what to do. I'm just afraid. And I said, I love you, giving you a lot of tough love right now, but you got to get out of this. You do know what you need to do next, but you keep saying, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And this is going on forever, and it's sabotaging you moving forward in any way. And it's okay to not be ready, but don't lie to yourself any longer.
One of the things I said last weekend in our coach training is I said, when people say, I don't know, what it really translates into, I don't want to know. Because if I do know, then I have to do something about it. So I don't know is a safety zone on the fence that actually creates a buffer called, I don't know what to do. I don't know what, and actually they do, but it's that permission that you give them to tell the truth at a deeper level without just the smokescreen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think it's powerful. It was in that moment, I really didn't recognize it because, I'm always learning. Like when someone brings a problem and you use your tools, and you get to a place where you've seen the pattern long enough. And some of it is intellectual observation, but some of it's just intuition. And in that moment, I just got into this deep, because we were in a circle, we were in a very closed, intimate circle. And I was like, and I got it and I delivered it. And it wasn't comfortable for her at all, but it created a breakthrough for both her and me. And for now, even people on the podcast that listen to the show, because I said something about that and someone said, whoa, you're speaking to me right now. So I think it's an issue. I always talk about addiction. Like, what do we do to numb ourselves? And confusion has never been part of that conversation. And now I'm going to say, oh, you're keeping yourself in confusion or limiting beliefs and excuses, because what she thought she needed to do, she jumped. She went from the very simple, I need to have a conversation with someone. She jumped to this dire consequence that might happen. It's not going to happen. And she freaked out about that, which kept her in this space, right? So for me, working with me, obviously, is the looking under the hood. I had to get out of the fitness industry as a whole because the depth wasn't there. The truth wasn't there. Why are we, because addiction, people can be addicted to how they look. And you feel that when you walk into a gym. I care about how I feel. I care about how I look, but not in an unbalanced way to if I'm happy. I'm not going to sacrifice. I'm not going to value my worth on how much money is in my bank account, what number is on the scale, or how I look in my clothes. That is not my value. But too many people attach their value to those things.
Let me just say that one more time, because I think that's what you just said is profound. You said, I'm not going to attach my value to how much money is in my bank account, to the number that looks up at me from the scale, and to how I look when I look in the mirror. And so many people, in your opinion, and I do agree with you, actually estimate their value as a human being in terms of one of those three. Or the fourth one might be, who really loves me outside of me? Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about addiction, because it's one of those things that I'm with you. I think that we're all addicted to something, whether it's a substance, a process, a person. We're all addicted to something. And I think the word addicted has taken on a kind of negative connotation in terms of alcohol and drugs. But when you do look at the broader picture of addiction, in my definition, which we may share or not, it's that which you have relinquished your choice to, and you have deviated towards the short-term gratification, replacing the underlying uncomfortable, I don't want to feel these feelings. And so you deviate to a process, let's go shopping, or let's binge watch something on Netflix, or let's eat chocolate, or let's do something that's going to allow me to not feel I don't want to feel these feelings. And let's replace it with something that's a little pleasant, euphoric, happy, at least for a moment in time, to get me away from those negative feelings. And then the cycle repeats itself, because it returns with that vulnerability, that shame, that those feelings of regret or guilt. And then all of a sudden the cycle repeats. Do you agree or do you disagree?
No, I totally agree. I usually I did a whole show on addiction, and we kind of outlined hard addiction versus soft addictions. Hard addictions being the drug and the alcohol and tobacco, even though my experience with tobacco addiction, so to speak, people think, oh, I'm addicted. Well, after 72 hours it's out of your system, it's not the chemical anymore. And for a lot of alcoholics, it's not chemical either. Like, we went through some different ways that people experience addiction. Nonetheless, because it's never about the thing. Like, I'm not a big fan of 12-step programs as an end point. As a starting point, as a bridge, maybe, but not as an end point, because you identify with the substance as the problem, and it's not. And most people that go through 12 steps, in my opinion, that stay there end up just becoming addicted to 12-step programs. Yeah. So they just replace the addiction energy hasn't actually been healed. We've just replaced the behavior. And so I always want to identify with people, what do you do to numb your feelings? When you're uncomfortable, what is it? And again, it could be addicted to your story. It could be addicted to being a victim. It could be addicted to how you look. It could be going to the gym. It could be food. For a lot of people, it's food. If it's not drugs or alcohol, it could be addicted to being right. People feel like that their badge of honor is, I have to be right. And if I'm not right, then I'm worthless. Like, I'm not worthy if I'm not the person who's right in the room. Yeah.
It's great. It's really great because it takes the narrow definition of addiction and expands it to be able to include anything that you are unconsciously obsessed with and can't let go of.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's a really important thing for us all to look at. I mean, whether it's sugar, caffeine, chocolate, food in general, or shopping, sex, gaming, going online, even social media, people tend to put something in place that allows them to distract and divert their attention away from the real issue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's probably the biggest symptom of our times, that people have to, stop and take a look at, what am I doing right now? Am I present? Or am I just diverting and distracting myself to whatever default base is familiar and convenient to me?
Mm-hmm. One of the tools I created to sort of address that, because I remember I moved from being a personal trainer and working with people one-on-one, whether it be with exercise or nutrition or sometimes mindset and lifestyle choices, into asking these deeper questions, which is why I started the show. I needed a platform to share all the things I was learning and researching and wanting to share with others in a new way, because I'd only attracted those people who wanted to lose weight and wanted to work out, but didn't really want to dig any deeper. And I thought, well, you got to dig deeper. And at this point, I need to branch out and look for new people, because I know that you're not going to be healed if you lose 20 pounds. It's a symptom. This is not, well, I can help you lose the 20 pounds, whether you maintain it that way or actually are ever happy is a whole nother conversation. It's not about, and trust me, I am as passionate about the science of the body and biomechanics. I mean, that's why I had to start the show, because I couldn't leave that out. Too many trainers don't even understand the anatomy of the body. Like I said earlier, they do exercises like doing dips. Anyway, I do a whole thing on dips, like if you were to go to your car door and open your car door and look at the hinge between the door and the car. Most people would understand that hinge is going to be challenged. Its stability, its structure will be challenged by what you're doing on the opposite side of the door. Well, when we work out and do bad exercises, and I'm just going to say bad to make it simple, our body is built and designed in a specific way. And sometimes you create injury with just trying to do an exercise. So I am literally as passionate about the biomechanics of the body, but I couldn't stay there because that's not enough. And most people don't care about that until they're injured. When they're injured, I get the calls. I get the injured. If I have 7 injuries, I don't know how to work out. Clearly. So let me help you, because I am all about maintaining cartilage, maintaining bone, building muscle in a way that doesn't put you at risk for injury. And I have a really great track record of my 70-year-old clients who have all their cartilage, or at least a lot of it, in their knees and in their hips, versus the other people who have worn them down doing basically really dangerous exercises that are unnecessary. So I had to start the show. I had to be able to give this information out. And what is sort of come, full circle is that I attract those people who understand that there's a connection to all of it. And I'm not for everybody, obviously. Those that just think, oh, it's just about my diet. It's just about what I eat. It's not about how I think or how I feel or the wounds I have from childhood or how I interpret information. That kind of person, which I can't imagine you would attract because
symptoms.
Right. Right.
Symptoms, not
So
the cause. Okay, so tell us what's next for you. I mean, because we're just on the verge of a whole new chapter, new decade, new year. What's next that you're passionate about?
So because I gave myself permission to do the show, and then that led to permission to branch out into 6 shows, which then gave me the feedback from the world and the universe that I'm on track when I incorporate law of attraction and speak to those people first. And I deliver what I do to the people who understand that things are connected at that level. I created my live events. I gave myself permission. It took me a little while. I padded it with other people, other speakers for the first couple, like more than me. And I could tell I was hiding because I wasn't yet ready to claim. And then when I finally claimed and I thought, oh, here I am. And I don't care what anyone has to say. I'll take the criticism. This is what I'm good at. And this is what I do. And I don't really want you don't need to validate me. I need to validate me. When I got to that level, and I've been using certain, again, tools. There's a tool that I've been using for years that I keep threatening to rewrite. It's a book that I'm sure you're aware of. It's Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg.
Mm-hmm.
Took me a long time to read the book or be involved because I didn't like the title. And I feel like it's one of those, it's like something that needs a makeover. And the way that I teach it is different than the way they teach it. I even thought about becoming one of their trainers. But when I brought them into a space to teach my clients, friends, and family and people that I gathered, I saw people interpret it differently than I did. I realized in that moment, my brain works very differently. That when I see something, I put it in a different order and then I go, oh, yes. And I looked around and nobody else was doing that. And I thought, we're missing the boat here. This is life-changing work. So after presenting it to companies and corporations and doing it in sales training and doing customer service training and in self-development, I've decided that 2020 is the year that I will create my version of that body of work, giving full credit to Dr. Marshall Rosenberg and adding my elements to it, and also getting my TED Talk about that. Because for years I'm like, yeah, I could do a TED Talk. What would I do the TED Talk about? Because I'm still in self-discovery. I'm still becoming the butterfly out of the caterpillar going, what is it that I'm selling? What are those pieces that are, we talked about this on my show with you when you talked about a business plan, right? Like, who can do a business plan? I keep changing. I keep growing. So I've decided that 2020 is the year to step into this I'm not a therapist, and the wound for me in my last relationship and just in life is people saying, well, you're not qualified. You're not qualified to say that. You're not qualified to tell me that or to give me that advice. And while, for them, maybe I'm not, but for a lot of people I am. And it's not about me. It's about the transformation that happens. It's about stopping wars. It's about stopping rape. It's about stopping anxiety and suicide and depression. It's about getting out there and empowering people to understand they are the creator of their own reality, and they can get their needs met and be empowered by understanding on a deeper level how they think and how they feel and getting their needs met and not making other people responsible. The work just lights me up every time. Everyone always has transformation. I save marriages and relationships go. So yeah, that's what 2020 is for me. It's taking this and really just finally doing it.
It's so exciting. I'm almost speechless, and that doesn't happen very often. But I'd like for people to notice, number 1, your passion. Number 2, your purpose. Number 3, your indefatigable energy. And that you are a bridge to people who are stuck in a place where they don't really connect the dots. And when they come to you, what you do is you allow them to have permission to connect the dots of their life, to see it from a different perspective, that they are the creator of their own reality, that they can manifest the life that they want. And in fact, if you're ready, willing, and able to jumpstart your life, and you want to have someone who's not going to put up with the reasons, reach out to JJ. She is a powerhouse, and she will give you tough love if you need it. And she's there to support you in this next challenge, whatever it happens to be. How's that?
Thank you. Thank you. That's amazing. Coming from you, that's amazing. And can you tell that I just kind of cut to the chase? I'm not, yeah, I guess I did tell you in the tough love part. Yeah. And I always make sure, I ask them, do you feel my love for you? And they're like, yes. I'm like, okay, just make sure that you feel my love for you. This is not is not a judgment. This is not a guilt trip. This is not a shaming. This is about a breaking through some of that really tough limiting beliefs that you've protected yourself with because you're afraid. Well, we're all afraid. I'm afraid every day. And sometimes when I do something new, and I get, I've worked through all those negative reviews that you get. And when you stand, the bigger you get, the more people that don't like you. And I'm okay with that because I know what it's about. I know when I trigger someone that I've triggered something inside of them they don't want to look at. And so they want to make it about me. And it isn't about me because I don't know them. So,
okay. So what's the advice that you want to leave our listeners and viewers with today?
No matter what the issue is you're facing, it's there to serve you. It's there to crack you open. And if you can be in a process with whatever it is that you're dealing with and know that it's just like on the hero's journey, it's one of the steps on the hero's journey. And there is a path. Any movie that you've seen, there has to be a conflict before we can have a resolution. And then we have, the ending with the knight in shining armor or whatever it is for you. You're on that path. So if you can take a step back and have perspective of the bigger journey you're on, then it won't seem like such a big deal. And you can get tools and you can get help and you can do this. It's there for a reason. It's not random. You didn't do anything wrong. You're in the perfect time and the perfect place. If you're hearing this message or whenever you're going to hear it, you're right where you need to be.
Okay.
Now, the next question is, what do you do with it?
One more thing. Reminder for those of you who are watching, please take out your phone, your handy dandy little phone, your smartphone, and take a picture of this right here so that you can find JJ Flizanes again. Flizanes is her name. And you can find her at her website, which is probably the best place to go and get some of the wonderful freebies that she's offering. And she's incredibly generous. So go there, claim your gifts, and launch your journey. I want to say a huge thank you to JJ for joining us today because you are an inspiration. You make a difference in the world. And anybody who comes in contact with you, their life will be changed for the better, the more positive aspects forever. So thank you for doing the work that you're doing. Thank you so much for all of our listeners and viewers out there who are gifted because you've chosen to align and to follow your passion, your purpose, and your power. Thank you so much, JJ.
Thank you.